Well, today I'm here at my friend's house you've seen in previous videos, and if I find the energy to do so, I'll insert that footage here to where we dropped a big white oak tree that I'm going to use for my ridge beam in this house I'm building. And just kind of rough estimate of what it's going to be, what it needs to be. It's 20 feet long. Right now it sets at 23. And then we're going to make a beam that's probably 5 1/4 wide by 8 or 10 inches tall. And so right now we're trying to do that. We have 3 or 4 plans, and we're just going to see what works. But first we're going to set up, I'll show you some footage of it next, but we've got a little device that makes a chainsaw mill in essence on a 2x6, and use that as your guide. And so I'm going to show you that right now. Here is the Timber Tough lumber cutting guide, and this is made to go like on a 2x6 or some sort of dimensional lumber as a guide. And then you've got one little part that goes on the chainsaw. I'm going to show you that in a minute, but right now I'm going to unbox this thing. I think we paid less for it, but it currently retails for like $35 or something on Amazon. So here's what you get. Seems to be pretty well made. It's like, doesn't feel Chinesium-ish. So we'll see how it goes, but it's got a little clamp and a guide, powder coated, got this little part and some hardware and the instructions, and that's what it's going to look like. So it clamps the bar, and there's room for the chain to go around in it. We'll see how that works. So it gives you these little instructions, and I'm just going to speed this up and kind of tell you what I've done. In essence, we've got this part. This goes on the bar of the chainsaw, and the chain goes through this part. And then it gives you this little piece to attach, so you can ride on a 2x4 or a 2x6 without it. So the instructions say you can mount this 2 ways. You can put it on there and drill a couple holes and put screws through it, which is more secure, but we don't really want to do that. And so they send you with these little set screw situations that have a hex key head inside of it. I don't know where this is supposed to go. More than likely we'll probably set it up and realize wherever we put it is not ideal and then change. But in general, that's how this works. 2x6, you clamp the bar, the chainsaw to this thing, and then dive into it and slide across your wood. So I'm going to take and use screws and attach. I don't have one big long 23-foot 2x6, and even if I did, I'd still probably want to do it like this just to get some rigidity, because this is the guide for you to make your cut. And so we're going to do our best to make it not wavy and go to one side or the other. And so I'm just going to speed this up. I'm going to put some screws and double these up and stagger the joints. These are just 2x6s I had laying around. They're all about 7-8 feet. We got our sort of mega board built, and if you look closely down, you can see like gaps. And so right now what I'm going to do is do my best to screw the wood, the board we made, to the log and make sure that it is as level as I can get. It's got kind of just a touch of a twist into it. I'm going to do my best to fix that as well. What we should have right now that we don't, and so we're just going to make do, is a string line. I have a laser level in my truck, but I think it's probably too bright to use. So I'm going to just eyeball it, and we'll shim this out, and you'll see the outcome. Well, we're running out of time today, and so we're going to call it quits just for today, and we'll pick this back up at a later time. What you just saw, we were afraid that if we cut through the end of this the regular way, well, one, it didn't seem like the bar was long enough, and two, it might shift and fall over on us. And so he just finished it up kind of freehand, and because it's going to be really pretty rustic, it didn't matter. But some of the stuff we learned in doing this, first time I've ever done this, you want to make sure that you don't overheat your chainsaw. I would suggest don't go more than probably 7 to 10 minutes, even with a big one like we had. It had like a, well, how big is that bar, Chris? 24?
24 inch.
24 inch bar. It's a 70 cc saw, right?
Yeah, 59 to 60.
Oh, so it's a little smaller than that. But whatever you use, I would suggest that. Don't overheat the saw. Each one of these sides, if we just did it and weren't resting the saw, you know, if you could just go, I think it was probably 20 minutes aside, something like that. And so it's definitely not a fast process. But for a piece of wood this big, it's a good option. This thing did pretty good. We would have been better off if I would have brought a string line that would help you kind of line this thing up, and also longer lumber. I just grabbed what I had, and it's not necessarily the best. But it seemed like it did pretty good, you know, cutting this at relatively a 90. And again, for my purposes, it doesn't really matter. So that's all I'm going to say about it for now. I probably forgot something, but and the next time you see us, hopefully we'll be finishing this thing out to its finished dimensions. It's another day, and we're going to hopefully, I say that with a big asterisk, hopefully finish up this beam. I plan on just doing 2 more cuts and calling it a day. Chris is trying to talk me into making it a little smaller, which is probably wise because it's going to be lighter when it's smaller. But I really just want to get it. I want to get it done, and I think that it's not going to hurt to be a little bit bigger, but we'll see how it goes. We're really concerned mainly about moving it around with the tractor and stuff like that because it's in a precarious place, and this tractor didn't have weights and 14 other things. But right now we're going to take off the guard or this 2x6 that we're using for the track for the timber, whatever that thing is called, that chainsaw mill, and move it on the flat side. And then we also should have brought a chalk line. It'd be a whole lot easier if you had a chalk line. You could snap a line and set the guide on that line. But we're gonna measure it out, and once we get one cut, we can measure to the other side and get it squared up. And again, if it's not perfect, it's going to be fine for what this is, because I want it to look rustic anyway. And so we'll put this up and see what we can figure out. We didn't end up recording what we've done so far because it was really just a lot of us scratching our heads trying to figure out what the heck to do. But we used the chalk line to establish the line, put a line on the board as much as we could. There's part of it's going to be in the wane, so it's hard to see, and it's got a little bit of a dip in it. But what we did was just measure off that, how far we need to match up with the guide board, and then just put some screws in it. And it was kind of wavy, and so we did our best. But now we're going to get the chainsaw going and hopefully cut the rest of this beam. Just wanted to give you a quick update kind of on what we're doing. After we cut this, and remember the last time we did this, we did not have our chalk lines, so we were just eyeballing it. I'm going to end up truing it up. In part, you'll see right here where it's not very square. That line right in the middle of your screen would be square, and so we're going to do our best to use that to square this up, and then do the same to the other side. And I have plenty of meat to do this. So in essence, we're going to make 2 more cuts. So what we did is use the chalk line to see if we can true this up and get a little bit better. It's just a little bit wide in the middle there too. And so now we're going to run it again. We got a good saw, a good blade. Chris had a bunch of different kinds of blades, and we're not really sure what they were, but this one seemed to be, markedly faster than the other ones we use. And so maybe it's a ripping blade or something. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me in the comments if you know more. I'm new to all this stuff, and so I'm not really sure, but we're learning. Well, here's what we ended up with. It took forever. And I'm pretty sure, like anything you do, the second time around, it would go a lot easier, a lot faster. We ended up having to kind of cut it down twice. And earlier I said, I ain't cutting it again. But having the chalk line made all the difference. And so if you're doing this yourself, you need something like that to get the straightest lines you can. It's still not anywhere close to the perfection that a sawmill would give you. And you kind of look down at it, you can see it's got a little bit of going on here and there, but I am plenty happy with this. We had a little bit of wane right here, but that's going to be perfectly fine. And kind of the way that it ends up, you've got a bearing edge there that's pretty solid into the good wood. Anyway, here's the beam. Well, that's the end of that. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please like and share and subscribe. Thanks so much.